All right, for this next part, I'm actually going to skip the little first paragraph. It says, it is possible for 3 or more variables to be related. So all we were dealing with on the front was x and y. Now we're going to throw in a z and maybe a w and who knows what else. When we do that, so when we have more than 2, it's called a combined variation, or we're combining the variations. Okay, so when you have more than 2 variables, it's a combined variation. Here, for example, a variable z can vary directly with both x and y. All right, when they are both direct, that gets a special name that your book likes to use, and that's called a joint variation. So that's what goes in the blank there, a joint variation. Joint is specific for when they're both direct. You cannot use that when they're both inverse. They have to be both direct. All right, the equation for this would look like this. Z equals k, because we have to have our constant of variation, times x times y. If they're direct, then the x and y are going to be on the same level as z. If they're inverse, like when we come down here, we have jointly with x and y, so they're on top, and inversely with w, w is on bottom. So if it's direct, they're on the same level. If it's inverse, it's on the bottom of the fraction. Does that make sense? All right. If I say jointly, does that mean direct or inverse? Direct. Direct. So this one means direct. This one means direct. And this one was actually only supposed to say direct. All right, so these are just examples. So jointly with x and y means x and y is on top. Jointly with x and y, so they're on top again. Inversely with w, it's on bottom. Direct with x, so direct is on top, or x is on top. And inversely with w and y, they're on bottom. Now, just for help maybe, when it says blank varies, so like z varies, or y varies, or g varies, that's what the blank equal sign is. So you'd say z equals, or y equals, or g equals. If it says Anthony varies, then it's Anthony equals. Got it? Yes? Okay. So we're going to practice writing sentences like this in these problems. All right, it says Newton's law of universal gravitation is modeled by the formula blah, 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 blah. Here's your formula. F equals G times M1 times M2 divided by D squared. And it tells us that F is the gravitational force between 2 objects with masses M1 and M2, and D is the distance between the objects. Okay, we don't know what G is. Oh wait, here it says G is the gravitational constant. Constant is important here. G is the constant. In all of our formulas, what has been the constant? What's the letter that we've used for the constant? K. Okay, so just make note in your head here that G is like the K. When we described up here, we didn't say anything about the constant. So we don't need to say anything about the G, but we have to say something about everything else. So I'm going to start it off like it did up here. It says Z varies. So instead of Z, what will I have? F. So I'm going to say F varies. All right. How does F vary with M1 and M2? Directly. Or you could say jointly if you wanted to. Directly with M1 and M2. And then you can write it as one sentence or two. And then I'll say F varies. How with D squared? Yes, inversely. With D squared. after you identify your constants, that's the one you don't talk about. Whatever's on top is direct, whatever's on bottom is inverse. All right, let's go to the next one where they give us the sentence and we have to write the equation. So the volume V, okay, it gave me a variable, of a tetrahedron varies jointly, that seems important, with its altitude h, another variable, and base area b. Okay, jointly means direct or inverse? Direct. So are h and b going to be on the top or the bottom?
H and B are going to be on the top.
B, yeah. So they'll be on top. What do I have on the other side of my equal sign?
B.
V, and then what do I still need in there that's in all of these equations? The constant, yes, the K. That is where I feel like y'all are going to get caught up, is that you're going to forget to put the K in there. So make sure anytime you're writing an equation for a variation, it has to have the K. All right? Now it says the tetrahedron, or there's a tetrahedron with a 5 centimeter altitude. So what can we plug 5 in for?
H.
So H equals 5. 6-inch base, so 6 is
B.
B, and a volume of 10 centimeters. And we have to write a formula that models this joint variation. We have our formula, except that we need to figure out what the constant is. We need to replace that K. So we have to plug it in here, plug everything in, and solve for K. So we'll have that 10 equals K times 5 times 6. So that's 10 equals K times 30. Trying to get K by itself, so I will divide both sides by 30. So what does K equal when you reduce it? 0.3, so that's 1/3. All right, your final answer, all you have to do is write your formula with the K in there. So V equals 1/3 HB. Ooh, I thought of something I need to tell y'all. On your last problems on your homework, do not forget to put K in the equations, okay? Let me give you some hints for the ones like example 4. They're not going to give you this long drawn out paragraph. They're just going to give you a formula. Like, for example, A equals pi r squared. Remember, your first step is to identify the constant. So in that formula, what is constant? Like it can't change. Pi. All right, so pi will be your K. You don't have to talk about that. Another one might be like D equals 2R. What in that is set, it doesn't change? 2. Okay, you get the point? All right, so if there's a number or pi or something, that's going to be your constant. It's not going to come out and tell you exactly what the constant is. You have to figure it out.